So we do, as you can see, have interpreters here tonight. Mandarin and Spanish speakers will be able to comment and ask questions in their own language, assisted by interpreters. All participants, however, must select their preferred language at the bottom of the screen using the icon that looks like a globe. It says interpretation. We will follow, there will be some slides that provide direction on interpretation, and I'm going to turn it over now to the interpreters to introduce themselves and provide some more instructions. So let's have the Mandarin interpreters, please. And just tell me when to go to the next slide. Oh, okay. Is the Mandarin interpretation complete on the instructions?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear on my end. And now could the Spanish interpreters please provide instructions?
Claro que sí, muchas gracias. Y solo un
Yes, of
recordatorio,
course.
just a reminder,
Just
this direction should be given in the monitor line so everyone can hear. Otherwise, if they don't know how to select their channel, they cannot access it. Entonces, nuevamente les explicamos si está uniéndose su computadora en la parte de
we
abajo del
just want to
Zoom,
remind
vaya
you,
al
if you're
icono
joining your
minutito, hágale
screen,
clic y elija español. Si
interpretation at
está
the bottom of
usted
your screen, you're going to see a
en
little globe
teléfono celular,
icon.
next slide,
If
please.
you are
Si está
in
usted en
a
su teléfono celular o su
phone, you're
tableta,
going to select three little dots.
the next slide, please. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. Y si usted se está uniendo de su
If you
teléfono
are
celular, en la
joining
parte de
through
abajo va a
your
ver los
phone,
tres
at the bottom of
puntitos
your
que dicen
screen,
more,
you're
cuando
going to
les
see
haga
three
clic
dots
sobre
that say
manito,
more.
y luego usted puede elegir
And
español
then
y en la
you
parte de
can
arriba finalizar.
select
Muchas
Spanish, and
gracias
then
y
at
que
the
disfrute
end,
su reunión. Si
done.
tiene algún problema
Thank
con
you,
la
and please
conexión, por
enjoy
favor,
your
diga que le podamos
meeting.
ayudar.
If you have any issues, please put it in the chat so we can support you.
如果说您是有任何问题的话，请把它放在Zoom meeting 里面的发信息的框里面。
Okay, and do the interpreters need to do a sound check now?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. All right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of PTAlink's 4-part webinar series, Getting Together, Building Community for PTAs. Thank you so much for taking some time from your busy holiday season to discuss a different kind of togetherness, the PTA kind. If you wouldn't mind just saying hello and saying what school or district you are with in the chat. We'd love to see who's joining our meeting. I'm Antonia Ferraro Martinelli, and I am the PTAlink coordinator. I've
Oh.
been parent leader for a long time now.
如果说您想说
probably shouldn't be hearing the interpretation, but hopefully that's not a technical issue that is on my end. All right, we'll keep going. So I was PTA president for a little while at MS88, and I'm currently CEC president. And this platform, PTAlink, was created by a parent in District 15. Her name's Rachel Fine, and she saw great disparities in terms of the knowledge across PTAs, and she sought to fill that void. I'm here with my director, Naya Berg, who can introduce herself.
Hi, folks. I'm going to keep this short. It's nice to see everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Naya, pronoun she, her. I'm the executive director of New York Appleseed. You're probably wondering, New York Appleseed, I thought I was at a PTA-like event. Yes, as Antonia mentioned, we acquired PTAlink back in the spring of April 2022. And we have had the pleasure of running the platform ever since. I'm going to pass it back to Antonia, but I know my background is a little loud to keep us going.
Great. And we have a guest speaker tonight, Michelle McCree-Harrison, who is from Roots Connected. Is she on the line?
I am. Hi, everyone. I am joining you as the strategy developer and program facilitator with Roots Connected. I'll have the opportunity to tell you more about my nonprofit in just a bit, but I've been an educator since 2011. I'm also joining you all as a parent myself of school-age children this evening, and I look forward to sharing some of the work that we do and how it might be in connection to this conversation.
Wonderful. So this is our website, PTAlink, and everything can be found there. It's totally free. All the resources that we provide and the events that we hold are completely free of charge, and we hope families make use of them. So PTAs are more than the money. And this webinar is we believe that building community can be just as important as fundraising. And in this presentation, we'll explore the ways to build a thriving community. Some of the important keywords: communication, inclusion, goals, collaboration, volunteerism, gratitude. We'll talk about events and event planning, advocacy. So briefly, we always have to come back to what is a PTA. It is the official organization of the parent body in a school, and state education law, as well as the chancellor's regs, mandate that every school has one. All parents and legal guardians of children, including 3K and pre-K parents, step parents, legally appointed guardians, foster parents, and persons in a parental relationship, are automatically members of the school's PTA. Parents and guardians just have to provide their principals with the appropriate documentation stating that they are a guardian. And the PA or PTA is really a vehicle for parent involvement in schools. It allows parents to serve as partners in their children's educations and in the schools themselves. Meetings. Meetings are the primary way that a PA or PTA communicate. This is the first way to build community. It's where we have shared decision making, where we develop our goals, we take on volunteer roles, and we strategize and collaborate. Some quick FAQs about meetings. Who can attend meetings? They are your general meetings are open to the general public. All meetings, all parents may attend executive board meetings, but the participation in those meetings is defined in your bylaws. Who can chair a meeting? The president, or as defined in your bylaws, but your parent coordinator and your principal cannot be a chair of your meeting. What is quorum at a meeting? For a general meeting, a quorum is 8, 2 executive board members and 6 parents. For other meetings, quorums are defined in your bylaws. And what are the types of meetings? General membership meetings, executive board, and special and committee meetings. Where are your meetings held? Meetings can be held in person, remotely, or hybrid in an accessible location if one exists in the school. When is notice given for a general membership meeting? It's given 10 days advance notice. For executive board and committee meetings, you'll refer to your bylaws. For special meetings, you must give 48 hours notice, and that notice should be given in the community's languages. When are meetings held? A PA or PTA must hold 9 monthly general membership meetings per school year, and those times and dates are defined in your bylaws. Quick quiz. I want to give you guys an opportunity to answer some questions. True or false? A child can have only 2 legal guardians. And you can raise your hand. Does anybody want to just chime in, true or false? I don't see anybody raising their hands.
There's some
We have a
answers.
couple of folks in the chat.
Oh, okay, in the chat.
We got some false. We got like 3 false. Someone said true.
So the answer is false. A child can have more than 2 legal guardians. A parent, once again, a parent or guardian just has to show the appropriate documentation to their principal so that they can participate in those meetings. Pop quiz. Some PA PTAs charge membership dues. According to Chancellor's Regs A660, can dues be a condition for membership in a New York City PA or PTA? And you can write it in the chat, or you can just chime in.
We got a lot of no's in the chat.
That's right. That's right. No. The answer is no. You cannot condition membership on dues in New York City. Outside of New York City, it's a different story. So let's talk about inclusivity. We always have to ask ourselves, are our meetings inclusive? Who is not attending our meetings and why? And PTAs can use surveys and polls to understand their families better. One good question you might want to ask is the location accessible? Many New York City public school buildings are partially but not fully accessible, and PTAs can consult with their school staff to ensure that accommodations are made. We also have to ask ourselves if our PTAs are providing, or how we can provide interpretation at meetings and translation of meeting notices and agendas. A660 does not mandate that PTAs provide language access, unfortunately, but PTAs can prioritize language services in their budget, and principals can also use Title III parent engagement funds to support language needs. So just like Title I funds come with parent engagement funds, Title III funds also come with parent engagement funds. So now that we understand meetings and how to hold them, at our meetings, we should be sharing and identifying common goals and a shared vision. And I recently listened to a podcast about the rebuilding of Notre Dame. And I know this sounds, what could Notre Dame have to do with PTAs? But as that beautiful church was burning, Macron set a deadline of 5 years to rebuild, and he formed a very diverse group of people to rebuild it. From everybody was involved, from the military, every elected official, to architects, engineers, artists, historians. And they developed a lot of collegiality around this project because they recognized that it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And now I know PTAs don't have these kind of grand once in a lifetime opportunities, but we can approach our goals with the same enthusiasm and develop sorority and fraternity through our common goals. And just remember, Notre Dame was not rebuilt in a day. Whoops, let me go back. So I wanted to hear a little bit about your goals and how your goals support your whole community and your school's mission. Would anyone like to come off take themselves off mute and talk about a goal that your school community had that supports the entire school community? I can't.
Yeah, we have Adriana, do you want to come off mute?
A goal would be one of our goals would be to increase engagement with our parents in our PTA meetings.
And did you come up with a good solution for that? I'm just curious.
No, we've tried many things and we haven't really gotten there yet.
It's a work in progress.
Without a doubt.
Thank you. We have time for one more. Adriana Aviles?
She just went, Maria.
Hi, Amelia Allen.
Yeah.
One of our goals is just to rebuild PTA reputation within the school because it has been a little bit more on the dull side. So that's one of our goals, including more regular fundraising in the school as well.
And have you given any thought to a way to solve that?
Yes, we have. So personally, I was the vice president last school year, but it wasn't as robust. So what I did was talk to other parents in the school to see if they would like to become more involved. And that was successful because a friend as well as a parent, she joined, she became the president. So we were able to work together to increase visibility and I guess like a certain level of influence and respect within the school that PTA does have like meaningful ideas and can shift and build community and bridge the gap between parents, teachers, and school administration.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. So we wanted to talk a little bit about mission and vision. The mission is the PAPTA's purpose. And the vision reflects a PAPTA's future aspirations. And on our website, PTAlink.org, we have an example to help you create a PAPTA mission statement. So I don't know, Naya, do you have access to that link? Maybe we can drop it in the chat.
I'll share the links.
Thank you so much. So committees. Committees are a great way to execute your PTA's goals. And some of your goals are going to be mandated, like your nominations committee, or in the event of an audit, your audit committee. But some community goals are simply identified by members of the community. And you may want to add some of these goals in your bylaws and create standing committees. Or you will have ad hoc committees that just meet for a short, specific period of time, and then they dissolve because they have solved they have achieved their goal. And committees really build organizational capacity, sustainability, and they support succession. Somebody who started off in a committee may run for an executive board seat the next year because they've gotten a taste of what the organization is all about. And now they're ready to take on more responsibility. So use your committees. Does our PTA communicate effectively? So effective communication, it's key to a successful community. We should be encouraging open and honest communication, active listening, and respect for diverse opinions. Some bodies that I have encountered have felt the need to set some meeting norms, and they're working with their parent coordinators or their family leadership coordinators to establish codes of conduct. And I'm really interested to see some of these finished products. I haven't yet, but if your PTA has adopted a code of conduct and wishes to share it with PTAlink, we would really be interested in adding that resource to our website. So please do get in touch with us and share those. So how does your community communicate best? I'm wondering if somebody might want to come off the mute and share with us how they find that their PTA communicates best. I don't see any hands raised at the moment. Oops. Well, I mean, there are many ways to communicate. You might have a website. You may use your school's website. You may find social media or e-blasts and flyers, robocalls, text messages. There are many, many ways to do it. We also encourage collaboration. It's teamwork, and we can achieve more together than we can achieve individually. And teamwork often promotes a sense of belonging. And we are really interested in the idea of PTAs joining forces with other parent organizations in other schools or even other districts, because they can share information, they can learn from each other, they can work on broader issues. And so I'm curious if any of the PTAs represented here today have worked or collaborated with another PTA. You can raise your hand if anybody has that experience. Oh, Adriana.
Yes, hi. So I'm a middle school, and we collaborate with the PTA elementary schools in our neighborhoods. So I have a very good rapport with our PTA presidents. So we share information back and forth, including each other's fundraisers and different events.
Oh, that's great. I see Caroline Jose.
Hi, yes. Simply put, the President's Council for each district is in a lot of ways the hub to help that be supported, where all PTAs can join up. and share information and also, help support each other in their events. So that's kind of where I've been in the collaboration space with other schools, is simply connecting with the President's Council space as the hub.
Absolutely. Yeah, the President's Council is definitely a place to collaborate. President's Councils can have bank accounts and treasurers, and they can do a lot of collaboration. I also found an example of a PTA Buddies pilot. And how this worked was 2 schools in 2 different districts, District 15 and District 16, had a school supply matching fundraiser. And so when parents from one school purchased a school supply from a certain catalog, the PTA purchased the same school supply and had it sent to the other school in the other district. And the 2 schools did have some joint PTA meetings and discussed future projects. So you could do PTA Buddies pilots on other fundraisers. And volunteerism. PTAs work they're entirely fueled by volunteers, and that work must be respected, it must be valued, recruited, and managed properly. And I've been a volunteer for a very, very long time. And so these are some of the things that I have often found myself saying or thinking, hey guys, we're all volunteers here. Gratitude is not a platitude. Saying thank you is probably the most important phrase in the volunteers handbook. Stick to the agenda. Respect people by respecting their time. Put it in the form of a question. Don't demand, ask. Ask, would anybody be available to support? And take responsibility for your choices. You answered the call, you accepted the task. Now follow through and request the appropriate support when you need it. And allow volunteers to do their job. Don't steal people's thunder or micromanage them. Offer positive feedback. And we also have to ask ourselves if our events are truly inclusive. And inclusion is really in the eye of the beholder. It's very subjective. What is inclusive for one PTA may not work for another PTA. So it's a constant inquiry. Could our food bank build community? Are our events relevant? Are our auctions and galas inclusive? Who is not attending our events? So for example, I heard of an issue at one school where a parent thought a really great inclusive event could be sort of a vintage used clothing sale. And then the principal said, no, yes, this is a low income community. However, our families don't purchase used clothing. That fundraiser will not be inclusive for our community. So it's really, it's a subjective, inclusivity can be subjective. And so, let me move on to the next slide. I have a little story about a $1 used book fair that I was involved in a long time ago. So my child attended a school that held a publisher-sponsored book fair. And I was a volunteer, and I saw that the book fair was creating haves and have-nots. Children were brought out from their classrooms to purchase books with the money that they brought from home. And the children who didn't have money were very upset. There were tears, there were books removed from children's hands. And the principal, knowing that this happened every year, brought in her own money and bought every child a book that didn't have. And so I went to the PTA and I said, how much money does this fundraiser event really make for us? And is it worth it? Why are we doing this from an equity standpoint? And she told me that the fundraiser didn't even raise money. They got something called Scholastic Bucks, with which teachers purchased books for their classroom. It was like a voucher. And so I questioned whether the conflict really justified the benefit. And so the PTA went back and they had a conversation and they came to the conclusion that they would do a $1 used book fair. And so parents often have a lot of books that children read and discard or they outgrow, and families brought in their own books. Children came in with $1 or no dollar and were given a free book. And in the end, the school actually they were able to raise more actual real money than they were receiving in vouchers from Scholastic. So I guess the moral is, reevaluating our events with an equity community mindset can reap rewards that both earn money and grow goodwill. So I'm wondering what event strategies have been successful in your PTA community, and people can raise their hands. Okay, we've got a Maria Allen.
Amiria. So I wouldn't say event, right? Because this school year, new president, secretary, treasurer, but the excitement has really, really gone above and beyond. So we have been able to fundraise at a much more faster rate. So we have received great response just before Thanksgiving season. We said we wanted to do a very simple fundraiser just to put ourselves back out there. And it was wristbands that basically says, spread love is the PS108K way. And parents and teachers, as well as the students, were excited about the silicone bracelets that we were able to sell out in such a short space of time. So I would say that's a success, because what it does is basically, like I mentioned before, our goal is to really increase visibility and influence and just build trust within the school community that the PTA is definitely present. And then the second thing is that our responsiveness. We have a PTA email. It had our president, Kenya, she's amazing with making sure that she's responsive to those emails and then bring it back to us to make sure that we have input in whatever the email says.
Great, thank you. Do we have anybody else who wants to share?
Hi, Sonia Hebel from Millennium High School. I am not for feeding the children sugar, but we partnered with Krispy Kreme, the donuts, and did a quick donut. It's a quick and dirty money maker if you need a little bit of funds. We've also done Thanksgiving pies and quiches. We've partnered with a baker. She gives us a better price. The whole community get together, and so we've raised funds like this. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else?
Hi, it's Serena here. We weren't able to really do dues and raise money as such. We're basically reforming our PTA again, and what we have been doing for the past 2 or 3 years actually was doing a teacher appreciation event. So that's more of an expense, but that's where all of the money that we had used towards that. And the teachers had said that they want to be included, but they were asking us, how can we, to make their time worth it. And when they asked us that, well, when they asked me that question, I could not answer them. They said, how can we be more productive in a meeting? They didn't want to spend their time coming to a meeting if they're just going to be listening to minutes and treasury reports and all that such. So the teachers were asking, what can they provide, or how can they be included in the PTA? So we didn't really fundraise too much. A lot of our fundraise, we didn't even do dues because of the pandemic. And then the previous president initially had said, you know, he felt guilty to ask for dues. So we never did. And for the past 2.5 years, you know, as a former president, I've been the past president for the past 3 years because I didn't have a board. There were people that signed up for it, but didn't do anything. So technically I was alone carrying the whole organization. So it was impossible. But we did still have Scholastic Book Fair, as you mentioned before. So it did go, all the funds go to Scholastic Books. And then we had very, very small, like those snack fundraisers, but it didn't make, we actually spent more money buying the products than, because the kids didn't have the money. And it always has to be a 2-day event. So they'll say, are you going to be here tomorrow? I'll have the money for tomorrow. But then it's not, because it's a 1-day event. So we weren't able to raise any money. We actually spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like your mission might be community building and not so much fundraising.
yes. So as I was hearing all of the other speakers before saying that, you know, to build trust, and that's great. Like this is exactly what you know, we need to, like, these are the ideas that we didn't have, because before, when I became president, I was actually not given anything. There was nothing transferred to me, nothing was given. So it was almost as if I had to struggle and to figure it out by myself, everything, and start from scratch, even though the PTA supposedly was running, but I don't know what happened.
I think that's a pretty common story, I'm afraid. But you know, go on our website. We have a lot of good ideas. There's an idea right there about talent shows. Giveaways are a really good way to get people just interested. People will show up for a giveaway, just raffle something off. School dances, guest speakers, talent shows, know your rights events, Grandparents' Day. There's lots of ideas. Oops, let me go back.
Can I chime in for a second? Is it okay?
Who's speaking?
Sonia Hebel.
Sonia.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll give you 2 minutes.
I don't even need that much. I just want to say, in order to include teachers, we have done in the past at my other schools, I'm now in high school, but you know, elementary and such, in either the newsletter or within WhatsApp, we've highlighted a teacher a week or a teacher a month so that people get to know the teachers, and that's really helpful.
Oh, that's really
people are more invested.
Mm-hmm. Teacher of the month. Great idea. Okay, so let's talk about advocacy. Your PTA can also promote positive change. And I wanted to highlight some folks who are on this call now who have some experience with that. They have an organization called Librarians Equal Literacy. And when their school could not use their library because they had no budget for a librarian, these parents took action and started to advocate for librarians citywide. And now they have a city council bill that attempts to shed light on just how many of our schools don't have librarians. So I wanted to see if Jenny Fox could come off, or Rachel Cohen. I'm not sure which one is here.
Jenny, I'm here.
Right.
Rachel is maybe on another call with some librarians right now, so it'll be me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to just talk about how it started and what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2001, going into the 2021, sorry, going into the school year, we lost our librarian, and our librarian at the time was just part-time and was actually paid for by the PTA, which is not like an ideal situation. And so she left to get a job that had, actual benefits and full-time job, which we totally understood. But after we lost our librarian, we started thinking we can't be the only ones in this situation. So we started looking outward within our district. And then we found out that more than half the schools in our district didn't have librarians. And then at that point, we started looking at the whole city. So we did a big postcard campaign within our school. We also reached out to some local politicians, city council members, and like five of them wrote to the DOE on our behalf and said, we want to know how many librarians are in our schools, which schools have libraries, which schools don't, where the kids have access and where they don't. And the DOE sort of ignored them, the politicians, our elected officials. So eventually we got a meeting with the DOE with Lincoln Ressler and Rita Joseph, who are two of our city council people. And again, we went to the DOE and we asked them for this information and we talked about the problem, and they still didn't really produce any real data about it. We also went to the chancellor's listening tour last fall and asked there. One of the deputy chancellors told us they thought most of the schools had libraries, which is not the case. We've been working with Chalkbeat to get stories about it. And then just this past November, council members Ressler and Joseph introduced a bill which would require the DOE to report the data, which is which schools have librarians on staff and which ones don't, and which kids have access to school libraries. So we're very excited by the possibility of this bill going through. We still need to apply, some positive pressure because not every bill that gets introduced is going to get a hearing and get passed. So I'm going to share in the chat too. We have a petition started, which would be great if you guys could share in your communities as well.
Absolutely.
I think I sent it. So yeah, and we're working with other schools. So if anyone wants to work with us, reach out. You can contact. I'll put the email in the chat. Sorry, I can't talk and think and type.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So so we're working now on possibly another postcard campaign. We've been talking to 3 or 4 different other schools who have gotten in touch. So we're just really trying to reach out to other PTAs and come together because this is an issue that is affecting schools all over the city. Thank you.
And thank you for your advocacy on that issue. So, as you can see, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You heard a lot of city council, bill, a lot of, political action going on there. I mean, yes, our PTAs are nonpartisan organizations, but we can still advocate to our elected officials. And these are just some ways to advocate. In December, you may want to advocate to your community education council who compile a list of building conditions for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. In January, school budget advocacy begins to ramp up, and you may want to reach out to—
I'm sorry, could you just go back to the beginning of this slide? Thank you.
Oh, sure. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease. In December, You may want to reach out to your community education councils because they compile a list of building conditions for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. And in January, the conversation ramps up around school budgets. And so you may want to reach out to your city council members and state assembly members and senators on school budget issues. And some CECs also host legislative breakfasts, which are an opportunity to speak with your elected officials. I know District 19 is having one early in January. And some year-round ways to advocate. Reso A funding, which is another funding stream that schools can access, that advocacy can be sort of year-round because the borough president and city council members have a separate pot of money just to give Reso A grants to schools, and they have various deadlines, and those Reso A grants are for school improvements and technology. And you can always advocate to the Panel for Education Policy, which hosts monthly meetings to vote on critical contracts and school sites. Members of the public can sign up to speak. You have to arrive at 5:30 to do that. So those are some ways to advocate. And now I am going to turn it over to our esteemed guest speaker, Michelle McCree-Harrison from Roots Connected. She'll talk about building community through the PTA.
Thank you so much. Do you mind giving me screen sharing access?
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
You can make me co-host, and I'm sure that'll probably work.
Just give me a moment because I have to find you in the list of people here. There it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Floor is all.
I'm sharing a few of our slides. As I mentioned earlier, I'm with Roots Connected. We are a nonprofit. We do a ton of professional development work, workshops, provide free resources and coaching as part of our work. And we really hope to connect people to each other. We empower schools and organizations now outside of the education sector to cultivate the next generation of justice-oriented change makers through innovative curriculum, culture, and learning environments. At our core, we're really committed to each person seeing the humanity in one another, and we really believe in cultivating relationships amongst all stakeholders that build strong school communities. Here's just a bit more information about us and a snapshot of our impact. As I mentioned, we do a lot of adult learning and collaboration. So that's with educators, parents, and even those outside of the education sector. We do a lot of work around creating cultures of belonging for students, faculty, and families. We believe it's really important to empower neurodiverse learners and creating schools and classrooms where students are seen and honored for their full humanity. So a lot of our work is centered around an anti-bias framework that we developed. And as you'll see here on the right, I mentioned like cultivating relationships amongst all the stakeholders within a school, and really seeing that it's just as important for these three cohorts of individuals that make up a school ethos to have a community amongst themselves, but then really this like overlap of how these communities interact, and really leaning into the strength of all of those is what lays the foundation for a strong school culture. And I know we're all here to talk about PAs, PTAs, but just like a bit of context around how we think about this as an organization. And I'll share a quick snapshot of some of the work that we're able to share with people that work with us. And so some of the things that we hope to achieve in building communities of belonging are creating spaces where voices are valued. And in order to do that, like deliberately teaching into what it looks like to listen to each other, working to understand perspectives that are different from their own as adults and as children, working collaboratively in diverse groups, which is so key in a place like the city where we're in such diverse environments, using reflection and repair, constantly examining barriers to learning. Social emotional needs are prioritized, and institutional practices are constantly evolving to center equity. I know that it was mentioned earlier that inclusion can be subjective, but I think really it's like a consistent work to be inclusive. And so like just making sure, I feel like this was mentioned, like there's a constant questioning of like, how am I actually meeting the community in front of me versus or the community that we're a part of, and being responsive to that as much as possible. Some of the power that we've seen in PAs and PTAs in thinking about that like overlap of community building, particularly amongst families and staff, has been the power of the PA, PTA to like serve as a liaison for parent voices with school staff, especially school leadership. So getting insight into some of the projects that are happening at the school, but then also really sharing with school leadership and being able to have that pipeline to share the concerns that are coming up for families. And so I know it was mentioned that a lot of PAs, PTAs, or at least the ones that we were able to hear from thus far, are still getting off the ground. And I feel like communicating the power of like having family voices heard within the school leadership can be like really impactful for families to know, like this is an avenue to have your voices, perspectives, experiences shared with the school staff in a way that can feel meaningful. As well as sharing parent resources and expertise, like how can we bring the vast amount of like knowledge, skill, like into the school. Volunteer time, which has been talked about a ton, and we've seen that. These are just some examples: recess, cleaning up, school beautification. When thinking about the family to student connection, specifically within that like school culture, through that relationship, like really deep, having a deeper understanding of student learning and gaining access to like a clear conversation or even like further information around what's going on with students, and being a pipeline for that type of information for the family community. This has been alluded to already, like the connection between school and home, but then also the connection between school and the community. So when we're I wanted to provide a definition that we use when we're talking about creating spaces of belonging. I feel like belonging is a word that can be thrown around and has various meanings for different people. And so I'm going to read this definition for you all, especially for anyone who's not actively looking at the screen, just to shape a little bit some of the examples of family programming that I'm going to share after this. So spaces for families to come together, to share perspectives and engage in community building activities and connect to their child's experience in school in order to develop deep relationships with one another. So that's the goal behind this framework that we developed. It's called intent. And I want to definitely frame this as a menu option. So think of the many things that a PTA could do. I know bake sales and book fairs and fundraisers were mentioned. And so we see like intent events as another menu option that PAs, PTAs can use as a way to engage families along with those other events and things that already exist within many school communities. Intent is an acronym. The I stands for intentional and safe spaces. N stands for no one-shot deals. And this is referring to having the opportunity for the same group of parents to gather more than once. So maybe creating an opportunity where families are signing up to meet 3 Mondays in a row at a similar time around a similar idea, with the belief that with continued repetition of meeting new people, you have an opportunity to gain a deeper relationship with them. Thoughtful outreach. I'll get into this a bit more, but it's essentially making sure that you aren't just doing first come, first serve for opportunities that come about, and also thinking about families that you want to reel in and how you can be intentional in connecting with them through any type of like touch point, and more personalized approach to bringing in families that might feel like they don't belong in the school community at the moment, and how to be thoughtful about reaching out to and finding those families. Explicit space for connection, reflection, and identity, and this will be pretty apparent in the example I'll give you. Numerous entry points, so that goes back to that accessibility piece, thinking about age, ability, and the diversity of the community that you're trying to engage, making sure that whatever topic or activity is chosen for the event has accessibility in mind. And then I feel like this is the antithesis of what's often considered around families. The numbers keep it small. But for this, again, menu option, not all events that a PTA puts on, but this very intentional community building. And I heard a lot about like building trust and planting seeds for a community to really like grow with depth. When you keep it small, there's a lot more opportunity to build spaces of trust and vulnerability and sharing than when we're bringing in hundreds of people. And I'll even talk about like thinking about this as the lens to maybe even just break up larger events into smaller groups to just like allow for that community building and for people to build new relationships with one another to help foster like true community. So set intent, what does that actually look like in practice in an event? This first example I'm giving you is called Family Art Making. And this is an event where maybe 6 families with their children, so maybe 25 to 30 people in total, are invited to come to the school community for 3 weeks in a row. And at every event, they are a part of building art together as a family that helps tell a story about themselves as a family or the history of their family. And through the art projects that they're making together, at the end, they're sharing with the other families that are in this or sign up to be a part of this. And what's beautiful about it is there's a lot of storytelling. There's a lot of connection through that storytelling. Families are coming with their children of multiple ages, so it really helps with some of the childcare pieces. And you see bonding amongst the families themselves, and then bonding amongst new families that might not have connected thus far in the school community. This is very long. I don't expect you to read everything that's here, but I wanted to break out how that family art making fits into what I was saying as intent. So there's always norms, whether that's school-based norms, core values that the school holds, or some type of expectation that you're here to like share from your own experience, listen to other people, and it's also an opportunity for you to be heard. I said 3 meetings. This actually has 4 meetings here, but they're consecutive. The idea being like, you're going to do this for this amount of time. And so it allows for people to plan and make themselves available. There's some personalized outreach and thought around like who really wants to be at this event, or who should we try and really pull in, and they're less of a first come, first serve. Each event started with a community builder and an opportunity to share an element or question, and it closed out with a reflection and share of like what happened in that session. Art is extremely flexible and accessible because it's in the eye of the beholder, and everyone has access to produce art in their own way. And then there was that no one-shot deals. There was only like 6 families, and it was capped, but offered multiple times throughout the year to allow for other people to come. And the second example of an intent, and the biggest difference here is cooks, where families are invited to come with a family recipe, share that recipe, and cook with other families who get to join in, learn that recipe. And then every week, a new family gets to lead, essentially. And this is similarly capped at maybe like 10 family adults being a part of it. There's a facilitator from the school or from the PTA. Some childcare was provided by a school or PTA volunteer or staff member. And it's just a really beautiful way that folks connect through food, are able to share meaning through food, and again, have that commitment of a few weeks in a row. And just beautiful community building that spread out of that about the PTA. I'm trying my best to be concise. I already shared the intent, but I want to also talk about this a little bit as a lens because it can be a lot to think about adding a menu item to programming that you're already doing. Maybe you don't have the resources, maybe you're still working to build the capacity to do something like that. And so all of these acronyms as part of this can also be used as a lens to look at existing programming you have and still add an element of building deeper community. Just as an example of that, when we're talking about keeping events small, let's say you already have, for example, at my son's school, there's always a back to school, what do I call it? They call it a ice cream social. And there are hundreds of families that come and are out on the lawn and getting a free slice of pizza and chatting. And usually families talk to who they know, but making the small shift of thinking of as families walk in, they got a color lei. They were like really inexpensive from Amazon, based off of what grade level their child was. And then there were posts with the grades around with that same color. And then when faculty stood around the color that they aligned with, and it broke the hundreds of families down into pockets of smaller communities that were able to connect across something that they shared. So if, for example, my son was in 2nd grade, I had a blue lei, I went over to the blue circle, I got to meet 2nd grade staff at this large event. I got to meet other 2nd grade parents. And if I also had a kindergartner and I was wearing green, I could also walk over to that section and just build community a little bit more intentionally by taking such a large gathering and thinking about ways that I could create smaller pockets of community for people to connect along like something that brought them similarity and could even be a part of fostering community moving forward. So that's just a glimpse of some of the work we do with families and school communities. We have so much more. Well, the only other thing I want to show you all is our family resources page. I did mention briefly that we have free resources. This is free and accessible. We do a lot of resources that you can just share with your family community. Tools for addressing moments of harm with your kids. Here's the actual like intent framework, a little bit more detail for you to read with examples that I mentioned, talking to your child about race. These are actually, what am I trying to say? Written resources, but then we also have video resources. These are quick 3 to 5 minute videos from some of our staff on talking about difference with your children or thinking about critical literacy and reading with a critical literacy lens at home. If you yeah, would be interested in talking, learning anything else about our organization, we're happy to share. And I look forward to any questions you all may have. Happy to be here. You're on mute.
Antonia, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you. Everybody can hear me now. I apologize. We'll open it up to questions now, and I just want to remind anybody who is listening in to the Spanish or Chinese interpreters to please relay your questions or just speak your questions and they will interpret for you. So just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat.
I lied. There's one that came through.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Do you visit President's Council? District 6 would love to have you. Oh yeah, we do. We go wherever you invite us. We would love to come to District 6. Just tell us when and what topics you'd like us to present on. And we would love to join you guys. All of our contact information is up there. Just email info@PTAlink.org. There's my my other email address, Antonia Martinelli at nyappleseed.org. There's also a phone number up there for the New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, and they will provide pro bono legal assistance to PTAs, especially PTAs who are looking to form 501c3s and incorporate. They can offer you free legal assistance. Any other questions?
I just dropped my email in the chat or an email to reach our Roots Connected if you're interested.
I don't have a question. It's more so of a comment. I just think that this is a wonderful space that I'm so happy Ameria told me about this. I see that that we have some commonalities, especially, you know, with how the condition of our PTAs. So it's good to see that we're not the only ones. There's others, you know, who are going through the same thing. And I just love the idea that we're all able to brainstorm and come up with, you know, ideas and things to just help, you know, the PTAs out. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, you're definitely not the only one out there for sure. I mean, everybody sort of comes to this work from different experiences and they're handed over a filing cabinet or a binder if they're lucky, and they have to figure it out.
Yep, I was lucky enough to get a filing cabinet, so
Anyone
No
else?
question. Nothing in the chat.
How often do we meet up?
Well, we don't have we're gonna do 4 of these. This is our second, and there's 2 more coming up. They're not scheduled yet. We're going to have one on PTA equity, funding equity, and then another one on election.
Meeting as a I'm sorry. I was just asking, does every theme have a meeting behind it? Every meeting have a theme behind it? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, our webinars all have a theme. I mean, I guess we could host sort of more open conversation, but I don't know how well that would work in a Zoom setting. But these webinars are going to be posted on YouTube so that people can review them in their own time, and we're going to send you all the actual presentation so that you can read it and take, just take more from the information. What do you think, Naya? Should we sign off or?
Yeah, I think we sign off. Thank you, everyone, and yeah, we'll be in touch with the next workshops on the table.
Thank you to Michelle McCree-Harrison. Thank you so much for presenting, and I hope people go to Roots Connected and use that resource. Naya, would you be able to put the link in the chat to subscribe to PTAlink's newsletter? Do you have that?
Yep. I'll do that as people are logging out. And also, thank you to our interpreters too for making this a multilingual setting and accessible.
Yes, thank you so much to our interpreters. We had 5 great interpreters working with us tonight. This was the first time we've done that. We really appreciate you all. And happy holidays to everyone. Monday, I'll be with District 25 at their President's Council talking about PTAlink. So if anybody was here for District 25, maybe I'll see you Monday.
Okay, thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you. And there's the link to subscribe to our newsletter if anybody is still on there.
All right. Close it down.
Stop recording.